Now, tomorrow we mark Anzac Day, but I'm sure all good outsider viewers also respectfully marked Earth Day on Friday by turning on the pool heater and leaving all the lights on when you drove your diesel four-wheel drive to go to a dinner at a restaurant that specializes in food flown in from overseas, right? Well, anyway, enough about me. Let's talk about how Joe Biden marked his Earth Day. He flew all the way across the United States to Seattle. Don't worry, I'm sure he offset the miles on the Air Force One carbon offset program that was supposed to be about the environment, but instead revealed just how bad his cognitive state appears to be. Now, I don't say this with any joy. This is the man who is supposed to be the leader of the free world at a time of the greatest instability since the Second World War. But have a look at this.
You know, our natural wonders inspire, and the reflection inspires to take action. You know,
our natural wonders are, inspired, and the reflection inspires to take action. Profound. Joe Biden also forgot the name of the big climate, the thing, the place he went to a few months ago.
We saw new standards. We set new standards. We slashed methane and brought over 100 nations together when I was at the big meeting we had in Europe. 100 nations around the globe.
The big meeting we had in Europe. I don't blame him for not remembering. He slept through half of the thing, actually.
Disabled and non-disabled all around the world, I call on you to commit to concrete actions to stop the destruction of this magnificent planet. This conference is one of the most important meetings in history.
Now, to be fair, that did sound pretty dull. But I'm also pretty sure he was referring to the COP26 meeting in Glasgow. Who really knows, though? The president also revealed in Seattle that he had discovered a new breed of bear. Its children are called economic cubs.
Out here in the West, we're repowering retired power plants and clean hydrogen and advanced nuclear, making them economic cubs again.
I bet they're really cute and cuddly. And of course, no Biden speech would be complete without his trademark whisper scream.
By the way, I made it clear to my friends up in Nantucket in that area, I don't want to hear any more about you don't like looking at them. They're pretty. But seriously, it's incredible the breakthroughs that they're making. Once you tell a nation that we can do this, go do it. It's amazing what happens.
And, of course, there was an Earth Day gift to America's enemies who must be laughing at his claim that he is going to make every U.S. military vehicle climate-friendly.
We're going to completely, we're going to start the process where every vehicle in the United States military, every vehicle is going to be climate-friendly. Every vehicle. We're going to have I mean it. We're spending billions of dollars to do it. And it's going to matter.
Who was he talking to there? I don't know. Anyway, but really, seriously, Mr. President, will we now have Tesla tanks bogged down not because of mud or enemy fire, but because they can't be recharged on a cloudy day? I mean, seriously, the sound you hear in the distance is not the peals of laughter from Rowan and Rita, but it's the peals of laughter from the Beijing Politburo. And, of course, the speech was also loaded with bizarre, unsubstantiated claims from his own life, such as that his neighborhood growing up was so polluted that he and 80% of his childhood playmates grew up to have asthma.
I have asthma, and 80% of the people who, in fact, we grew up with have asthma.
Really?
80%? Well, I don't know. Rita and I actually visited his childhood hometown of Scranton a couple of years ago, and it seemed like a pretty nice place for a young future lifeguard to grow up. Well, here we are, Rita, Scranton, Pennsylvania, where it all began.
And this is the childhood home of Joe Biden.
That's right, a young man who would go on to pursue a career of politics, become vice president of the United States.
But before that, he was a lifeguard at a pool where he would allow young children to touch his hair legs.
And to get hot, I got hairy legs. that turn blonde in the sun. And the kids used to come up and reach into the pool and rub my leg down so it was straight, and then watch the hair come back up again.
With respect, this is just not an issue. And saying that parents will be concerned is just repeating I think a transphobia line. There is
So do you think some concern about parents is transphobic? That's not fair, is it?
No, but it is, because we are talking about a minority of the population that is already incredibly vulnerable. At elite level, it is so rare. You have not got this rush of events where it's happened. And at community level, sporting codes are focused on making sport inclusive, fair and welcoming for all. And all this policy approach opts to do is seek division.
That's just ridiculous there, what she has to say. And it also shows that she is well to the left of ordinary Australians on this. And here's a proof point for you. Anthony Albanese is tacking very close to Scott Morrison on this, and tacking very close to the conservative side of the coalition on this, because you know what? He knows that this issue, about the trans kids or trans athletes is going to cost Labor huge amounts of votes. And the seats they need to win in Western Sydney. And in fact, I think that most traditional Labor voters look at this and say, oh, come on. The Albanese campaign, their whole strategy with COVID and everything like that for the leader, he's doing the Zoom campaign from his house in Marrickville, is to put all of these frontbenchers out. Well, great. I say bring it on, because these people need to be tested. We know how the coalition's ministers are, because we've seen them in action for years now, but we know the public knows comparatively very little about the people who might be treasurer, defense minister, foreign minister, agriculture minister. So, we all wish Mr. Albanese the best for a quick recovery, but we also think this is actually a great opportunity for the public to see, for better or worse, how his front bench will perform under pressure. I find this fascinating to look at the energy crisis in Europe. How much of that has been driven by Russia's infiltration of green groups in Europe? In Germany, you see a lot of prominent former German politicians winding up with seats on boards in Russia and things like that. Really, Putin has been largely responsible for creating much of the green momentum, hasn't he?
Well, we know from the former Secretary General of NATO, who made the claim that Russia is funding environmental organizations primarily to stop Europe drilling for shale gas. Europe is sitting on huge reserves, Britain in particular, but other parts of Europe, of shale gas, which would power Europe for perhaps 30, 40 years. Wow. And Putin and his TV organizations in Europe have clearly helped the Green campaign against fracking. And also, you have to remember, natural gas prices in Europe are about 10 times higher than they are in the US, because Europe is not using its shale resources. So if Europe had started fracking 10 years ago, we wouldn't have that crisis at all, like the US is sitting on very cheap shale gas. So Putin has colluded with the green movement, not just in Europe, all over the world, also in the US, to support green activists trying to block domestic extraction of oil, gas, and coal, and offering, of course, Europe Russian oil, gas, and coal. Europe is completely dependent on Russia, on energy, which is why Europe finds it so difficult to deal with Putin.
But what policies do the Liberal Democrats have to bring down the cost of living? And are you concerned that by running as a spoiler candidate here, if enough votes are drawn from Dave Sharma to you, you could wind up giving the seat to Allegra Spender and potentially, in a hung parliament situation, putting Anthony Albanese in power?
So let me answer the second question first, because it's a very important one. And I've had a lot of people come charging up to me and demanding to know where are my preferences going. And most people don't actually understand the way our system works. Your preferences go exactly and only where you want them.
But
so if you put me at number 1 and you want to put Labor 2 or Liberal 2 or UAP 2, that's the only place it goes.
But where will you be telling people on your how to votes how to direct their preferences?
Well, I'll certainly be telling them to put me at number 1. And in respect to the policies that the Liberal Democrats have, that's another great question. If you look up the Freedom Manifesto, it's available via my website and the Lib Dems, you can actually see all the policies articulated. And, when you go to some of these other candidate websites, it's so light on detail.
Which of those policies will bring down the cost of living?
Okay, so the biggest one is small government and lower taxes. I mean, one of the things that amazed me, secret for viewers at home, people who come to Sky often get to do their own makeup. If you go to the ABC, they have a budget in the millions of dollars to put makeup on. And there is so much government waste, and both major parties are giving money away, billions here, billions there. That money comes from ordinary Australians, and as much as 50% of what people should be able to keep, they're giving away, and the government are not looking after it responsibly.
In an Albanese government, the deputy leader has the right to choose what portfolio he wants. Everybody is saying that what Richard Marles wants is defence. Now, that should terrify people, because what came out this week is that Richard Marles gave a speech to China, which he had vetted with the Chinese embassy, and that he has also said about the Solomons and other Pacific islands that, Australia really can't do anything to prevent China from coming in and doing things with these islands. And in fact, actually, because the Pacific needs development, there's no problem with China coming in and providing their model of development along with Australia. And so, who cares? It's all fine. And so this is the attitude of somebody who is potentially the next defence minister of Australia.
Twitter suspends a Shakespeare scholar. Wait for it. Why?
Well, because the old quote about first thing we do, let's kill all the lawyers. Henry VIII, I think it was, Henry VI, sorry, part two, posted this. Twitter Shakespeare scholar put this on Twitter, and apparently this was too much for the blue noses at Twitter, so perhaps Elon Musk can, when he takes over, sort this out and maybe read a little bit of Shakespeare.
Big screaming headlines, Rita. This morning, no new taxes, says ScoMo. James, tell us about it.
Well, we've now finally got ourselves a policy debate, and it's all about taxes. And he has given an ironclad guarantee that there will be no new taxes. Now, of course, people with long memories will remember other people maybe said such things before in the next Parliament's lifetime. Now, that's great for Scott Morrison, because what that does is this exposes Labour on this, because Labour has refused to come out and say that they too will take a no new taxes pledge. They've said, well, we won't introduce any new taxes, but every time any of their frontbenchers, anytime the leader is called to account and say, well, will you say that the government's take of revenue will not go above 23.2%? Will you commit to that tax ceiling, which is where it is now? They say, oh, well, look, our policies are going to be released at some point and fully costed by the Parliamentary Budget Office, but, we're not going to do any new taxes, but we're not going to commit to any sort of tax ceiling. So take that muddiness as you will.